So it's kind of interesting. When I was a kid, I never really thought about it. I had a cousin that was a police officer. He started out in Houston, and then he was a police officer in New Mexico too, where most of my family. I was born out in West Texas, and so I had family. My mother's family was from a little town called Denver City. My dad's family was from a town called Hobbs, which is in New Mexico.
Yeah, I know Hobbs is, yeah.
So I had a cousin that was a police officer there, and I remember him, coming over to my grandmother's house when we'd be out there visiting in uniform. And I thought it was cool, but I never really thought I would want to do that. My dad was also a police officer for a little while when he was finishing up college, but that was before I was born. I mean, I don't remember that at all. So there really wasn't much in my family as far as that goes. My family, they're all in the oil business, and that's kind of what we grew up around. Kind of what I thought I might end up doing, if not that, some type of business, because that's kind of where our background was. So. It's kind of interesting. And then what actually turned me to law enforcement was after I graduated high school, I went to OU, Oklahoma University. Mm-hmm. And when I was a freshman there, my first semester didn't go very well. Away from home, I spent a little bit too much time, hanging out at parties and with friends than I did going to class. And I remember coming home after that first semester, my grades weren't that great. And I remember my mom and dad saying, you better find something that you're passionate about, and you better get this together and make good grades, or, we're not going to continue to pay for you to be in college. And I took a elective course that next semester in political science that was taught by a retired police officer. He'd been a police officer in Berkeley. I think he said he was a police officer in the 60s. And so anyway, I took that class, was listening to his stories. I thought, this is pretty cool. And I ended up taking all of the classes that he offered and getting my political science degree with emphasis on law enforcement administration. And that kind of had me hooked.
Yeah. Why OU?
Really the biggest thing is just as a kid, I'm a huge OU football fan. Remember watching OU Nebraska games and just was always fascinated by the campus. Thought it was, just a great place. And at the time, too, they had a real good business school that I thought, would be good. Of course, it turned out, too, they had a real robust political science department with the law enforcement emphasis, too, which actually worked out better for me. But that was just kind of always my plan. I always wanted to go to OU, even as a kid.